Mike Owens and Inside Fighting here, and it's always a pleasure to be joined by the main man, Hurricane Shane Burgos, who's out in Tampa after cornering Billy Quarantillo at UFC Tampa last weekend. Shane, always a pleasure, my man. How are things with you today?
Man, I appreciate you for having me. It was it's quite a weekend, quite a weekend.
Quite a weekend. How was Tampa? How was the whole experience as cornerman? Is that something that you're a regular in?
That was my first time cornering in a UFC fight. Like I've obviously cornered for my brother in local regional shows and other fights like that. But that was the first time I cornered a UFC fight, and man, that was electric. Like I got all the flashbacks, the goosebumps, the feelings. I was like, oh, bro, this is different. Obviously we came up a little bit short, but I feel like the game plan we had with Billy, it was working. But that's the game when you get these 4 ounce gloves and you just get caught. I mean, you got Cub just sat down and threw that big right hand and caught him. It was a great fight. Obviously, they got fight of the night. Proud of Billy for the work he's put in. That dude is a workhorse. The dude works so hard. He's the cardio king. Like the dude will not stop coming. If you have to you have to kill him. He's like a zombie. He will not stop coming the entire time. So super proud of him for his performance, and not just the performance, but everything he's done in the lead up. He left no stone unturned. So that's something like when you lose a fight, it sucks, but looking back at it, you can be like, I have no excuses. I did everything right, and I know he can do that. So it's a little bit easier to swallow in some sense, and he also got a 50K bonus, so that makes it a little bit better.
How did training with Billy Quarantillo come about? Basically, because I know that we were talking off camera about you were looking at different places to move, and you settled on Florida. So was it just a location thing and just a timing thing in that sense?
Basically, like the stars just aligned. Like I looked into Houston, moving there, but then it was just too far from family, so we ended up shutting the door on Texas. Then we always came back to Florida because there's no state income tax, which is huge. And then it's only a 2 hour flight back home. But I decided on Tampa, the west coast of Florida. Everybody usually goes to the east coast because there's a small airport that goes direct back to my hometown, so I can get back home pretty easily. And honestly, we've been taking advantage of that. Like we've been only been here since August, so it's been what 5 months, something like that. And I've already been back like I think 4 times already. So it's been a lot of back and forth. So it's like I moved, but not really because I see my friends, my family, my teammates back at home pretty regularly. So that worked out. And then Billy lived down here, so he's the biggest name over here. So as soon as I moved down here, I was like, we already have a history. We fought. We had a great fight. I reached out to him. He welcomed me with open arms, and all the guys down in Tampa have been awesome too.
November 6th of November 2021, UFC 268. You and Billy Quarantillo beat seven bells of shite out of each other. Excuse my French. I feel like that fight never got the credit it deserved because of the fight that it proceeded with Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler. But what a fight! It speaks to MMA as a sport about
Yeah.
you guys going through what you went through in the cage 3 years ago to now be training partners and cornermen. So just talk to me a little bit about your relationship with Billy in relation to that fight 3 years ago.
Oh yeah, man. Like as soon as the fight is done, like when especially when we have a fight like that, like there's a different level of respect you have for a person that I can't really put it into words. It's kind of like like you really can't put it into words. It's just we both went through something that was just crazy. Like it's funny because I actually had a similar fight with Josh Emmett, and then me and Josh Emmett trained after that too, and it's the same thing. It's just like it's like some kind of connection you had with that person that you can't really put into words. But we both went through the exact same thing, trying to basically kill each other
Mm,
for 15 minutes. Um, and then to come down, it was almost like he's been my friend for a while now. Just
mm.
because we went through that, it kind of like fast tracks you to just being boys. So that's something we'll literally gonna look back on our deathbeds and be like, dude, we had a crazy fight at Madison Square Garden. And then fast forward a couple years, walking out with him in his corner, like it's pretty surreal, but it didn't feel surreal in the moment. It felt
Mm.
very comfortable. It felt like yeah, of course I'm in the corner, man. It's my boy. It's kind
Yeah.
of cool.
Is that your team now, Shane? Like, if when you make your return, will you be training and will those guys be cornering you and returning the favor?
So I got my team back at home. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So
Of
I still have
course.
my coaches back home and that. But I just added basically a whole new set of teammates and coaches down here, which has been awesome. But for my actual fight, I'll probably have my coaches back home because I think when I'm in fight, dude. Fight camp is just so rough that on my family, like I have 3 daughters and we have no family down here.
Mm.
So like when I'm in fight camp, I'm probably gonna do half the camp back at home and half the camp here, just so my wife can get some help with the kids when I'm obviously cutting
Mm.
weight and going through all the ins and outs of training camp. So I'll probably bouncing a lot back and forth.
Was that your first time back at a UFC event since you moved over to PFL?
Yes, and that's funny. On the way over, I was like, "Oh shit, this is the first time I'm going back to a UFC event." That's pretty weird, but all right, that's pretty cool. But I remember we walked into like you walk into the loading dock in the back, and then like you kind of get a little glimpse of the crowd, and we heard Bruce Buffer announcing, and I was like, oh man, the flashback! I got goosebumps. Like the Matt Arroyo, Billy's other coach, was he was recording, and I was like, dude, I got goosebumps at that right now. But you
Mm-hmm.
got to send me that video because I got jacked up when I made that walk just in the backstage.
Do you notice a difference between a UFC show and a PFL show?
Yeah, I would be lying if I said I didn't notice a
Mm,
difference. Of course, I noticed a difference. That, and especially that one. That dude, that one was I think that was the largest gate in North American history,
mm,
right? I think that's what they said. So I remember literally being backstage, and I could feel the electricity, and it's such a corny thing to say, but it's so real. If you've never been to a UFC event live and you're a diehard fan like myself, you can literally feel it like from your toes all the way up to your fingertips. It's pretty cool. So yeah, I'm not one me personally, when I'm in the actual fight, it doesn't matter if it's in a backyard, if it's in MSG, if it's in a small little regional spot. It doesn't matter in
mm.
the moment. But I know, like, being on the flip side and cornering and being outside the cage before you're going in, yeah, you could definitely notice that UFC pop is just like everybody knows. It's not me shitting on PFL or anything like that. Like
Yeah,
everybody knows the UFC is just the I think what's his name? Alan Joban said it on the commentary for the post fight show. Like, everybody says you watch UFC, they don't say you watch MMA. It's just because like the foothold that UFC has on the entire sport. Like, it's almost like UFC is the sport, honestly.
yeah, yeah, 100%. I couldn't
And
agree more.
that's just
Yeah,
I don't think anyone can disagree with that. I think that's just a fact.
yeah, I agree. As you mentioned there, we haven't seen you for over a year, August 2023, the last time we saw you in the cage. What is your timeline for return, and what do you look at as potential next steps in your career?
I don't know exactly. We're gonna see. But 2025 is gonna be a really interesting year. I'll say that. It's funny, but it's not funny at all. Actually, right before, like, Billy asked me to corner him for the fight, he's like, "Dude, you're good. You'd be a good look for me for training camp." And I was like, "Yeah, dude, I got you." I was like, "We got 10 weeks, perfect." I literally finished that conversation. I go to my strength and conditioning gym and I break my foot. Like,
Mm,
I'm like, "You got to be kidding me! This dude just asked me to corner him," and I
mm,
said yes. And 30 minutes ago, he asked me to corner him. I broke it on the warm up. I broke my foot on the warm up. I couldn't walk. I was in a boot. Obviously couldn't spar or anything like that. So his entire fight camp, I've just been coaching, which I think it might have actually worked out a little bit better. Because I could just focus solely on putting everything into the camp on the coach side. But man, that was super frustrating. Like, I was expecting to fight on the finale card for PFL, and that went out the window. So yeah, I don't know exactly what my next move is, but I know 2025 is gonna be interesting, man. I'm really excited for it.
I imagine 2024 might have been a slightly frustrating year for you, and there's a part of you that wants to kind of put that in the books and kind of move on to your career.
Yes and no. So the time off, like, just focusing solely on my family. Like, me and my daughters and my wife have gotten so much closer. I've done so much work outside of the cage, just on myself, personally, and like the relationships with cause, dude, that the PFL season it's grueling. Like, I
Mm,
was in camp from February all the way to August, and had I won that fight in August, I would have been in until November.
mm,
I had a newborn right in the middle of it. So the time off was nice to actually spend with my family, focus on them, and then also having this huge move, like me moving all 5 of our lives from New York down to Florida. It was nice to not have to focus on doing that while in fight camp, because the thought of that was giving me anxiety. I was like, they're gonna call me any day now with a fight, and I'm like, I'm in the middle of a move, and I can't imagine doing this
mm.
while in fight camp. So it actually worked out for the better. The competitor in me obviously wanted to get a fight booked and locked in, um, but in hindsight, everything happens for a reason, and I think it worked out for the best.
How old are the three kids? Just
So I got a 7-year-old, Avery. She's gonna turn 8 in a month and a half, and then I also got a 3-year-old in April. She turns 4, and then I got a 1-year-old. She's in July. So it's keeping me on my toes like nonstop, man. It's
so
a full
the
time job.
so the two eldest, you probably would have been right in that UFC run. I don't know the exact timeline, so forgive me, but certainly for the last one, it must have been nice to have had that dedicated time without a fight. I know you mentioned moving
Yeah.
state, but to have that dedicated time without being in fight camp, without having to watch every single calorie to enjoy it the early years or so.
So no, like, all 3 of my kids, I've had every single one of my kids in fight camp. Like, I remember
Wow.
with my firstborn, I had her a couple weeks before I fought Charles Rosa, which is my second UFC fight. My second one, Grace, I had her right before I fought Edson Barboza. Like, literally 2 weeks before I fought Barboza, I have her. And then this one, the last one I fought Clay Collard in August, but I ended up having my so then I had and then
Little bit of a technical difficulty there, courtesy of the Burgos household's lawnmower. But Shane, we were talking a little bit about fight campus at that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The HOA is doing longer now. But so my third one, the last one, my last kid, it's officially my last one. I had her right before I fought Clay Collard, about a month before. So it's like every single time I've had a kid, I haven't been able to just be dad. It's been counting calories and fight camp and
Mm.
training. Like I remember all three of them after we had them. I go to the hospital, visit, I sleep there. The next morning, I wake up, I go to training, I shower at the gym, I come back to the hospital. I'm like, dude, all three of them. I feel like bad for my wife. So I'm like giving back, and this year off has been good for me to just give back and solely just focus on being, not solely, but just focus on being dad.
100%, 100%. Well, whilst you've been away, there's obviously been a lot that's happened in the sport. I'm not sure how much you watch the fights while you're
Oh,
away.
dude,
So yeah,
come on,
yes,
man.
no,
I,
yes,
I,
no.
I'm a diehard. I eat, sleep, and breathe this sport. Like I love. I don't miss a prelim, bro. Like
See,
I love. I
see,
really,
see, you say that like it was a stupid question from me, but the amount of guys that I speak to who are like, when I'm not training, I don't watch the sport. I like the NBA, I like NFL. So the question I was going to ask you is, who's your fighter of the year for 2020-24?
oh, it's not even a question. I can give you the second runner up. The runner up fighter of the year is Alex. Alex had a great year, phenomenal year. I cannot take anything away from him. But there's a man that did something twice that nobody else has been able to do at that weight class, especially it's got to be Ilia Topuria. It has to be. He's, what is he, 16-0 now? Just knocked out Max Holloway. Right before that, knocked out Volkanovski. Like impressive is almost like not is almost an understatement for how good the dude is. I think like what do you think of pound for the term pound for pound? Do you think that is based off skills, or do you think that is based off of your accolades? Those are two different
Mm.
conversations. I personally think pound for pound, the meaning of pound for pound should mean whose skills translate and transcend if everything's equal. If the height, the weight, if everything was equal, whose skills would be number one? And if that's my pound for pound term. So if that's what we're talking about, it's not even close. Ilia Topuria is number one pound for pound. I think when it comes to overall, the dude could punch, he could kick, he can knee, he can elbow, he can wrestle, he can wrestle up, he can submit you. Like he's got to be pound for pound when it comes to skill. If you're talking about accolades, then okay, I can see John Jones and Islam being in the mix and being ahead of him, obviously, because they have more accomplishments at this point. But if we're talking solely on skill, I feel like it's got to be Topuria. And on top of that, you got to say he's hands down the best boxer in the UFC right now.
He's come in 2024 and basically shook up the UFC Featherweight Championship picture in the space of a year by knocking out Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway back to back. Is he doing anything different to the rest of the crop at 145 pounds, in your opinion?
I would love to know what he's doing different in training. I really would love to know. I'm very interested in his training camp, but I don't know what he's doing, man. But he just looks phenomenal. Like he's so fluid. The way he moves on his feet, his takedown defense is obviously awesome. Um, it, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't think that he's necessarily doing anything different. I mean, no, he is doing something different in the fight. The way he moves in the fight, he moves like a high level professional boxer,
Mhm.
but an MMA fighter that can. You never really seen anything like this. I feel like he's one of a kind, and he's really an example of the new wave of MMA. Obviously we've been getting a bunch of examples of those like up into recent years, but this one just sticks out differently to me.
I suppose to that point about pound for pound, it's an interesting way you categorize it because I suppose the debate with pound for pound is everybody categorizes a little bit differently. Some people go accomplishments, some people go actual skill in the cage.
Yeah.
It's a very fluid argument. So,
Yes.
how
Exactly.
would you rank your say top five in pound for pound at this moment?
So if I'm ranking my top five, I'm going to rank it based off of what I think pound for pound means, and I think it means skill transcending weight classes. So number one, pound for pound, and it's going to be Ilia for me. Number
Mm.
two, I'm going to probably put Islam. Number three, I would go with number three. I'd go with John Jones. Number four is a little rough. Four and five are going to be rough. Can I put Demetrius Johnson still in there?
You can put Demetrius Johnson, yeah. Yeah.
Like if I could put Demetrius Johnson there, then he's going to be number two. So he'd be number two.
Okay.
Islam would be three. Four would be John Jones. And right now, oh, I think it might be Islam. Honestly, I think Islam. I'm not sorry, Bilal. I think Bilal might be
Well,
top
yeah.
five right now.
Yeah.
Right now, it's just hard to say.
Mm.
Like,
You
who
mentioned,
else?
sorry,
Like, I'm saying who else is in the top? I'm drawing a blank.
the
Potentially,
only other one would be Alex Pereira, but then if
yeah.
back to your point about well-roundedness, that would be the question.
And that's not me throwing any shade at Alex. I'm a huge Alex fan. Anytime he's fighting, I'm tuning in 100%. He made his debut on the card with me. Like I'm a massive fan of that dude. Awesome fighter, great, and he's actually impressed me with his takedown offense and everything all like that. But again, when it comes to skill transcending, if everything was even, like when it comes to height and size, I don't think him and Islam would even be remotely close. That's not throwing shade. I just think Islam is that much better than when it comes to overall MMA.
Well, now you're a lightweight. Now you're officially a lightweight. How do you see the UFC 311 main event between Islam Makhachev and Arman Tsarukayan playing out?
I love that fight. The first fight was awesome. It was a
Mm.
fun high level grappling match, kind of like the Mavsar versus Aljo's fight, which I was a big fan of too. Um, it's I'm a big Arman fan. I am a really big Arman fan, but how do I at this point how do I pick against Islam? It's very hard to pick against Islam right now. So if I'm a betting man, I'm gonna pick Islam, but that's not to take anything from Arman because I think he's clearly in the top two or three at lightweight right now.
100%. We'll turn the conversation back to yourself. We're at the end of the year, we're at the end of 2024. What are your goals for 2025? Where would you like to be in your career in 12 months' time?
I want to be back in the win column. Obviously, I want a couple more like iconic, legendary. I've had some dope fights. I've had some cool fights, some fun fights, but I feel like I haven't had the one that I exactly want to have before I retire. So I want to make 2025 the year that I have that fight that I have mentally in my head. Against
Is
who?
that
I'm not sure. I don't
is
really
that a
care.
name? Is that a location? What is
And,
that?
location, honestly, I love fighting in home. I love fighting MSG. Just because it just makes it super easy for me.
Mm.
So I like that location, but there's no name specifically. It's more about the performance that I want to put on. That's really what I care
Mm.
about. Before I lay my gloves down, I want to have this specific performance I have in my head, and I feel like I haven't had that one yet. So when I have that one, that's when I'll be happy and I'll be able to retire happy.
Talk me through, and I guess I know it's a difficult question, but talk me through what your masterpiece looks like as you envisage it. Like what do you envisage that as?
Ah, man, obviously everybody wants the flawless performance where you literally don't get hit and you just smoke the dude. I want to have one of those crazy fights that I've had before, but I want to put an exclamation point on it. So I want to have the kind of fights that I've had before. Obviously I want to get hit less, but then I want to put the exclamation point on it with a big finish. That's what I want. I want a fun fight that goes not necessarily back and forth, but where I'm just doing everything that I know I'm capable of doing that I've done in the gym, and then I want to end that fight with the exclamation point.
Last one from me, Shane, and thank you as always for your time. What are your plans for Christmas? How does the Burgos family celebrate?
So we're down in Florida right now, and it's beautiful. Like, look at this, man. Like, this is what I'm looking at.
You're making an Englishman very, very jealous, believe me.
Blue skies. It's a lot better. And it snowed back at home in New York, but
Mm.
I'm going back to New York on Thursday to spend the holidays with my family. So I'm excited to see the family, and my kids are excited to go back for Christmas. So that'll be fun. But man, it's hard to leave this 80-degree weather. Right, it's 82 right now. To leave this to go back to it's going to be I think 8 degrees next week. So I'm like dreading that a little bit. But I love Christmas, and that's one of the holidays that like no matter what, if I have a fight, I'm never gonna take Christmas away from my kids. I'm always gonna make that like the biggest best day of the year for them.
As you should. Shane, thank you as always for your time. Always a pleasure catching up, my man. Have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.
Appreciate you, brother. Have a good one.